The moment I pushed open that door and saw my daughter trembling in the bitter December cold while her husband's family celebrated inside, I knew 6 words would change everything forever. But let me start from the beginning of this nightmare that became my greatest battle. The taxi wheels crunched against the thick snow as we pulled up to the house on Meadow Creek Street in Boise, Idaho. December 24th, and the temperature had plummeted to a bone-chilling 32 degrees. After decades of coaching Taekwondo, I thought I knew what cold felt like. But this Christmas Eve air cut through me like ice daggers. The house glowed warmly from within, golden light spilling through the large windows, and I could hear the faint sound of holiday music drifting out into the night. My heart raced with anticipation. I had flown in from Seattle after a grueling week training the national team, my muscles still aching from the intense sessions on the mats. All I wanted was to surprise Luna, my precious daughter, to see her face light up when her mother appeared unannounced for Christmas. It had been months since we'd been together in person, and the excitement bubbled inside me like champagne. But as I stepped closer to peer through the front window, a chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the weather. The dining room table was set magnificently, draped in crimson cloth and laden with a golden turkey, steaming side dishes, and crystal glasses filled with deep red wine. The Thornfield family, my son-in-law's relatives, sat around the table in their finest attire. I recognized Cassius's father, Judge Reginald Thornfield, commanding the head of the table with his authoritative presence. His wife, Victoria, held her wine glass with an air of superiority, her lips curved in what looked like a permanent smirk. Their daughter Serafina laughed loudly with her 2 children, everyone seemingly having the time of their lives around the crackling fireplace. But where was Luna? I pressed my face closer to the cold glass, scanning every corner of the warm, inviting room. This wasn't right. Luna should be there. Should be part of this family gathering. Should be laughing and sharing stories like she used to do with me when she was small. Then I heard a soft whimpering sound coming from somewhere near the front porch. My blood turned to ice as I followed the sound and discovered the source. There, hunched in an old wooden chair beside a snow-covered planter, was my daughter. Luna sat completely alone, wearing nothing but a thin cotton blouse, her shoulders shaking violently from the cold. Her hair was matted against her forehead, damp from the falling snow, and her lips had turned an alarming shade of blue. "Luna!" I cried out, my voice cracking with panic as I rushed to her side. I immediately stripped off my coaching jacket and wrapped it around her trembling form, my hands shaking as I felt how ice-cold her skin had become. She lifted her head slowly, and when our eyes met, I saw a pain so deep it nearly stopped my heart. "Mom!" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. The single word contained so much suffering, so much relief, so much exhaustion that I nearly collapsed right there in the snow. I pulled her against me, feeling her fragile body shake like a wounded bird. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here now," I murmured, though tears were already burning my eyes. I dug through my travel bag and found an extra sweater, wrapping it around her as well, trying desperately to share my warmth with her frozen form. As I held my daughter, the sounds from inside the house continued: laughter, clinking glasses, cheerful conversation. The contrast was so stark, so cruel, that I felt my blood begin to boil. Here they were, warm and comfortable, celebrating Christmas with full bellies and happy hearts, while my daughter, my own flesh and blood, sat freezing outside their door like she wasn't even human. Just hours earlier, I had been at the Boise airport, still energized from my coaching duties, dragging my worn suitcase through the terminal with nothing but excitement for this surprise reunion. I had tried calling Luna multiple times during my layover, wanting to hear her voice, wanting to make sure she was home. But each call went straight to voicemail. Each text message remained unread. A knot of worry had formed in my stomach, but I convinced myself she was simply busy preparing for the holiday festivities. During the taxi ride from the airport, traffic had been heavy with families heading to midnight mass. The streets twinkled with Christmas lights, and I could hear church bells ringing in the distance. At one point, we'd stopped at an intersection where I spotted Phoenix, one of my former Taekwondo students who now worked as a police officer. When I called out to him through the window, his face had lit up with recognition. "Miss Zara, you're back," he had exclaimed, adjusting his uniform cap. Just finished training in Seattle, I replied, trying to hide my exhaustion. Heading to spend Christmas with Luna. But something strange had happened then. Phoenix's smile had faltered, and a shadow of concern had crossed his features. He'd opened his mouth as if to say something, then seemed to think better of it. What is it, Phoenix? Is something wrong? I'd pressed him. He'd shaken his head quickly, forcing his smile back. Nothing, Miss Zara. Just good to see you back. But his eyes had betrayed worry, and as our taxi pulled away, I could see him watching us through the rearview mirror, his hand gripping his cap tightly. Now, sitting in the snow with my frozen daughter in my arms, I understood what Phoenix had been unable to tell me. As I prepared to carry Luna toward the front door, voices from inside the house drifted out clearly through the winter air, and what I heard made my blood run cold. Judge Reginald's deep, booming voice cut through the holiday music. That's what you call a daughter-in-law? A woman who can't even bear children after 4 attempts? Haven't we been humiliated enough? His cruel laughter was followed by Cassius's voice, sharp and merciless. She's always pretending to be depressed, locking herself away and refusing to help. If it weren't for my parents' generosity, I would have thrown her out long ago. Then Seraphina's voice joined in, dripping with venom. Exactly. A wife who can't produce children, what's the point? Always playing the victim, always wanting sympathy. It's pathetic. Each word struck me like a physical blow. These people, who I had trusted to love and care for my daughter, were discussing her like she was garbage to be disposed of. Luna, who had called me sobbing after each miscarriage, her heart breaking a little more with every loss. Luna, who had dreamed of nothing more than a happy family, who had poured her love into every meal she cooked, every effort she made to please them. My hands clenched into fists as I looked down at my daughter, still shivering in the chair where they had left her. They had done this. They had broken her spirit so completely that she sat outside in freezing weather rather than fight for her place inside. I scooped Luna into my arms, her body still trembling against mine, and marched toward the front door. Each step felt like it carried the weight of every injustice, every cruel word, every moment of pain my daughter had endured. I pounded on the wooden door with such force that the holiday music inside suddenly stopped. No one came to answer. I pounded harder, my anger building with each unanswered knock. Finally, the door swung open to reveal Victoria Thornfield, wine glass in hand, her red lipstick perfect despite the late hour. The smell of alcohol wafted from her, and she regarded me with barely concealed annoyance. "Oh, Miss Zara," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet but completely fake. "What an unexpected surprise. You should have called ahead so we could have prepared a proper welcome." I stared directly into her eyes, not bothering to hide my fury. "Called ahead?" I hissed through gritted teeth. "If I had called ahead, how would I have witnessed this? What have you done to my daughter?" Victoria glanced at Luna in my arms with obvious distaste, as if she were looking at something unpleasant. "Luna wanted some fresh air," she said dismissively. "Don't make such a drama out of nothing. It's Christmas, come inside before you catch cold." Her words hit me like a slap. Fresh air? My daughter had been practically freezing to death in a thin shirt while they feasted inside. Before I could respond, Cass has appeared behind his mother, his shirt unbuttoned, radiating arrogance. He held a wine bottle and looked at me with undisguised defiance. "Mother, close the door," he commanded, his tone dripping with superiority. "Let her stay out there until she stops this attention-seeking behavior. Who shows up to Christmas dinner acting fragile just to avoid helping with anything?" He chuckled as if he'd said something amusing, but his words cut through me like knives. From the dining room, Seraphina's voice rang out again. "Exactly. A woman who can't even carry a baby to term, what value does she have? Completely useless." Her laughter mixed with murmurs of agreement from the others around the table. Even the children, Luna's own young cousins, ran out to see what was happening and giggled when they saw Luna in my arms. "Aunt Luna's in trouble," they whispered to each other, their innocent voices adding salt to the wounds. My face burned with rage. I pushed against the door with my shoulder, then kicked it hard enough to send it flying open. The door slammed against the wall with such force that Victoria's wine sloshed out of her glass, staining the expensive carpet red. The Christmas music stopped abruptly, as if someone had yanked the power cord. The room fell into heavy silence as I stepped inside, still carrying Luna. Every eye turned to me, Judge Reginald with his cold, calculating stare, Victoria with her fake smile now completely gone, Serafina looking at me with pure disdain. I felt their hostility radiating from every corner of the room, but I didn't care. Nothing mattered except my daughter. I gently placed Luna on the sofa, draping my scarf around her shoulders. Her hands were still ice cold and trembling, as if the winter's chill had seeped into her very bones. I knelt beside her, looking into her eyes, trying to share some of my strength even though I was a storm of fury inside. The Thornfield living room remained brightly lit, the fireplace still crackling merrily, but the atmosphere had become thick and suffocating. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath, waiting for an explosion. Cass stepped forward, his face flushed with wine, his eyes gleaming with arrogance. "You don't get to make a scene in my house, Zara," he said slowly, emphasizing the word my as if to remind me I was an unwelcome intruder. He stood tall with one hand on his hip, his partially unbuttoned shirt a gesture of complete disrespect. Yet in his eyes I caught a flicker of uncertainty. He knew I wasn't someone who could be easily intimidated. I shot to my feet, pointing directly at his face, my voice shaking with accumulated rage. "And you think you have the right to throw my daughter out into the freezing cold? To let her nearly die from exposure?" My voice exploded from my chest. "Is this what you call being a husband? Is this what you call family?" Judge Reginald rose slowly from his position at the head of the table, adjusting his suit jacket with deliberate ceremony. His deep voice resonated with the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "That's quite enough, Ms. Zara," he intoned. "This is a family matter. A woman who cannot bear children must learn to accept her limitations. That's simply the natural order." His words struck me like a physical blow, cold and calculating. I met his gaze directly, seeing the arrogance of a man who had spent years as a judge, accustomed to controlling every situation. But today he had chosen the wrong opponent. I looked around the table, taking in the scene, the perfectly roasted turkey still releasing its savory aroma, the elegant side dishes arranged just so, the wine sparkling under the chandelier's light. Then I looked at Luna, still shivering on the couch, her stomach audibly rumbling a silent accusation against their cruelty. "So you feast like kings while my daughter sits outside in 32-degree weather," I said, my voice cutting through the air like a blade. "No coat, no food, treated like she doesn't deserve basic human dignity. This is what you call tradition? This is what you call compassion?" Victoria shrugged, her smile becoming even more frigid. "A woman who can't have children is simply a burden," she said softly, her voice dripping with contempt. She raised her wine glass and took a deliberate sip, as if to show she couldn't care less about my feelings or Luna's suffering. Serafina chimed in from her seat, her tone acidic. "Your daughter always uses depression as an excuse to avoid responsibility. In all this time, has she ever cooked a decent meal for this family? All she does is lie in bed feeling sorry for herself, bringing everyone else down." Murmurs of agreement rippled around the table. Some family members nodded their heads, others snickered, as if Luna were indeed nothing more than a burden they had to bear. Every sound, every sideways glance pierced my heart like another dagger. I wanted to overturn that entire elaborate table, to demand justice for my daughter's suffering. Then a weak voice came from the couch. Luna had stirred, trying to sit up, her trembling hands gripping the sofa's edge. "I'm so tired," she stammered, her voice breaking and barely audible. "Nobody understands how hard this is." Her words were immediately crushed by Cassius's harsh shout. "Enough," he barked. "Just shut up. You've embarrassed me enough already." He stepped toward her, his gaze ice cold, as if he wanted to destroy what little strength she had left. I watched Luna's shoulders slump, saw her red eyes fill with fresh tears, and felt my heart constrict with pain. I stepped directly in front of her, ready to do whatever it took to protect my child. Memories of Luna flooded through my mind like an avalanche. I remembered every phone call where she'd sobbed to me about another lost pregnancy, the first, the second, the third, the fourth. Each miscarriage had shattered another piece of her soul. She had been such a sweet girl with dreams of a warm, loving home, imagining family dinners with her husband and children gathered around the table. But the repeated pain had pushed her to the edge of despair. I had tried to be there for her through those long-distance calls, but I never imagined that the Thornfield family, the people I had trusted to love her, would treat my daughter like this. Cass, the man I had once thought was decent, now revealed his true nature, a cruel bully who would cast my daughter out into the cold and treat her like garbage. Through the window I spotted Phoenix standing quietly on the porch. He must have been patrolling the neighborhood when he heard the commotion. His grim expression and clenched fists showed that he had witnessed this cruelty firsthand. I gave him a slight nod, signaling him not to intervene just yet, but inside I felt a surge of hope. I wasn't alone in this fight. I had a witness who knew the truth. Cass took another step forward, pointing his finger at me menacingly. "I'm warning you," he said, dropping any pretense of politeness. "This is my house. Stay out of our business or things will get much worse." He smirked, convinced that I would back down in the face of the Thornfield family's power and influence. He was wrong. I clenched my fists so tightly that my knuckles cracked, feeling all the rage I had suppressed throughout my life explode in that single moment. The air in the room became so thick and charged that it felt like a single spark could set everything ablaze. I locked eyes with Cass, my voice low but sharp as a knife. "You think you can threaten me? You think you can continue hurting my daughter without consequences? You're wrong, Cass. I will not let this stand." I turned to address the entire Thornfield family, from Judge Reginald's cold stare to Victoria's condescending smirk to Seraphina's disdainful glare. "All of you," I said, my voice echoing in the suddenly silent room. "You will pay for what you've done to Luna." The living room fell into a terrifying silence, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out, leaving only thick tension ready to explode. I placed my hand on Luna's shoulder, feeling her frail frame beneath the scarf, my voice steady and unwavering. "This isn't a private family matter anymore," I declared. "This is domestic abuse." My words landed like a stone thrown into still water, sending ripples of shock through everyone present. Victoria, still clutching her wine glass, let out a mocking laugh, swirling the liquid as if she were enjoying some private joke. "Abuse," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm and superiority. "We're simply teaching her to know her place, Zara. You should be thanking us for tolerating her this long." Cass has stepped closer, his eyes red from alcohol and rage. He spat his words as if he were chewing each one before releasing it. "She fakes depression, fakes illness to avoid any responsibility. Nobody's hitting her. We're just tired of her complete uselessness." He paused, staring at me with a twisted smile. "Maybe you should teach your daughter some basic facts, Zara. Nobody loses 4 pregnancies in a row by accident. Maybe she did it deliberately." Those words were like a razor blade slicing through my heart. They didn't just wound me, they tore open Luna's barely healed wounds. I heard her sharp intake of breath, as if she'd been punched in the chest. For miscarriages. For times she had called me sobbing, her voice completely broken, telling me about the children she would never hold. Each time I could only clutch the phone helplessly, trying to comfort her with empty words across the distance. And now Cass has dared to stand before me and suggest she had done it intentionally. I clenched my fist so hard that my nails dug into my palm, blood rushing to my face. He had crossed a line I could never forgive. I pulled my phone from my coat pocket, my hands shaking but determined as I dialed the local police station. "I'm calling the police," I announced, my voice cold as winter itself, though inside I was a hurricane of emotions. "A formal report will be filed. You'll answer to the law for this." I emphasized each word as if I were carving them into the air, making sure everyone understood I wasn't bluffing. Cass froze, the wine bottle slipping from his grip and crashing onto the hardwood floor. Red wine spread across the expensive carpet like blood. Panic flashed in his eyes, though he tried to maintain his air of superiority. You wouldn't dare, he shouted, but his voice wavered, betraying his fear. Judge Reginald, who had been observing with a cold expression, stepped forward with deliberate movements, adjusting his tie. His deep, gravelly voice boomed with the authority of decades on the bench. You have no idea who you're challenging, Zara, he said menacingly. I've spent my entire career as a judge. I've seen the worst humanity has to offer. You think a simple phone call will make us tremble? His eyes were sharp as knives, a reminder that the Thornfield family's influence ran deep and wide. But I refused to be intimidated. I had seen my daughter shivering in the cold, and nothing, not even Judge Reginald's considerable power, would silence me now. Serafina crossed her arms from her position at the table, her smile mocking and cruel. Go ahead and make your call, Miss Zara, she taunted. Let's see who they believe, a hysterical old woman or a respected family like ours. Do you really think the police will take your side? Her venomous laughter rang out, full of confidence that I would fail. Luna, still on the couch, tugged at my sleeve with trembling fingers. Mom, please don't, she whispered, her voice filled with fear. I just want peace. Her red-rimmed eyes seemed to say she was terrified that things would only get worse. I looked at her, my heart aching with the weight of her pain. I knew she was scared of the Thornfields' retaliation, of more humiliation being heaped upon her. But I also knew that if I stopped now, Luna would be trapped in this cycle of abuse forever. I squeezed her hand tightly, trying to transfer some of my courage to her. You don't have to be afraid anymore, I said softly but firmly. I will protect you. I promise. I lifted her into my arms again, snow from her clothes falling onto the carpet like pieces of a shattered dream. I ignored the Thornfields' scornful glares and their muttered threats. All I knew was that I had to get her out of that house, away from that cage of cruelty where she had been trapped for far too long. As I turned toward the door, I saw Phoenix through the frosted glass, standing resolute on the porch. His hand rested on his radio, his eyes burning with barely contained fury, ready to act at a moment's notice. I gave him a slight nod, letting him know I was prepared for whatever came next. Phoenix nodded back firmly, his grip on the radio like a promise that he would stand by me. I walked out without looking back, carrying my daughter to safety. Behind me, I could hear Victoria shouting at someone to clean up the spilled wine, Cass slamming his fist on the table in frustration, and Judge Reginald's deep, angry voice as he made urgent phone calls. All those sounds were like arrows piercing my back, but I didn't care. My only concern was getting Luna to safety. I took Luna to my small apartment near the National Training Center, where I had lived for years as a coach. It wasn't luxurious, just a living room with an old couch, a simple kitchen in the corner, and a few family photos on the walls. But to me, it was a sanctuary where I could shield my daughter from the Thornfields' cruelty and the bitter cold that had nearly claimed her. I carried Luna to the bedroom and gently settled her on the bed. She was still shivering despite being wrapped in my thick coat. I searched through the closet for warm clothes, found an old sweater, and helped her put it on. Then I made a mug of hot chocolate, its sweet aroma filling the chilly air. Drink this, sweetheart, I whispered, placing the warm mug in her hands. But she just stared at it with empty eyes, as if she didn't believe she deserved even this small comfort. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Phoenix, his voice deep and steady. Miss Zara, I've filed the initial report at the station, but you should know the Thornfields won't go down easily. They have significant influence in this town. I'm prepared to testify as a witness if you need me. I could hear the determination in his voice, like a small flame that refused to be extinguished. Phoenix, my former student who had once stood in the dojo with bright, eager eyes, was now standing beside me in a different kind of fight. Help me prepare for this, Phoenix, I said, my voice brief but filled with gratitude. This could be a long battle, he replied simply. I've got your back, coach. The next morning, I took Luna to see a therapist in downtown Boise. Dr. Maria Santos, an older woman with compassionate eyes, welcomed us into her warm, comfortable office. After speaking with Luna privately, she looked at me with a heavy expression. She's suffering from severe depression, Miss Zara, Dr. Santos explained sadly. The repeated miscarriages combined with constant emotional abuse from her in-laws have completely destroyed her self-confidence. She needs rest, professional treatment, and above all, she needs to feel safe. I nodded, my heart constricting with pain. I had known Luna wasn't well, but hearing it from a professional felt like another blow. I looked at my daughter, curled up in the chair with her hands clasped tightly together, and blamed myself for not being there sooner. That afternoon, Phoenix stopped by the apartment. He was out of uniform, carrying a bag of fresh fruit and some old cookbooks. He set them down in front of Luna, hesitating for a moment. "I know you used to enjoy cooking," he said gently. "I thought maybe starting with something simple like an apple pie or chicken soup might help you feel a little better." His voice was soft, but I could see the concern in his eyes. Luna kept her head down, clutching the edge of her shirt, and murmured, "Thank you, but I don't think I can do anything anymore." Her words pierced my chest like needles. Phoenix's face fell for a moment, but he didn't push her. He simply nodded quietly, left the bag on the table, and turned to me. "Miss Zara, whatever you need, just ask. I've got your back." That night, after Luna had fallen asleep, I sat at the kitchen table under the dim light, surrounded by papers and documents. I heard a noise outside, then watched as a thick envelope was silently slipped under the door. I opened it to find a handwritten note with messy lettering. "Don't interfere with the Thornfield family if you don't want to end up as miserable as your daughter. Give up now." My blood boiled as I read the threatening words. I crumpled the paper and threw it forcefully into the trash, the sound breaking the silence. That threat didn't frighten me, it only fueled my determination. They thought I would back down, but they were wrong. That same night, I began organizing all the evidence I had accumulated over the years: bank receipts showing money I had sent to Luna, loving messages between us, documentation of my constant support. Each piece of paper was evidence that I had always tried to help her, even though Cass and his family had squandered most of the money I sent. Every document held memories of times Luna had called with a shaky voice, asking if she could buy something for the house, only for Cass to tell her it wasn't necessary. I gripped my pen so tightly it nearly snapped. I had trusted Cass to take care of my daughter, but he had only seen her as a tool. When she stopped being useful to him, he had discarded her without mercy. Luna woke up in the middle of the night, stumbling out of her room on trembling legs. She found me at the table, buried in paperwork, my eyes tired but determined. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking with fear. "I'm scared. I'm afraid they'll hurt you because of me." I looked up, saw her red-rimmed eyes, and felt my heart being squeezed in a vice. I stood up, walked to her, and wrapped her in my arms, feeling her fragile body against mine. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," I said firmly, though inside I was a knot of anxiety. "From now on, I'm the one who will protect you from everything. I promise." I guided Luna back to bed, staying by her side until she fell asleep. But sleep eluded me. I returned to the kitchen table, continued sorting through papers, and made a detailed list of everything that needed to be done. I called an old lawyer friend who had helped me with legal issues related to the Taekwondo team. He promised to look into the case but warned me, "The Thornfields have tremendous influence in Boise, Miss Zara. They know people throughout the court system. Prepare yourself for a long, difficult fight." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "I understand," I said, "but I'm not giving up." The weeks spent preparing for the legal battle felt like an endless nightmare. Every night, under the dim lamp in my small apartment, I reviewed page after page of documentation, rereading every bank receipt, every medical report concerning Luna. Those cold numbers and letters were proof of my love for my daughter, but they were also painful reminders of everything she had suffered. Finally, the day of the trial arrived. I felt like I was stepping onto a Taekwondo mat for the most important match of my life. Luna and I entered the Boise courthouse together, the morning chill seeping through my thick coat. I held her hand, feeling her icy fingers trembling in my palm. Her eyes were red with dark circles that spoke of sleepless nights. She kept her head down, as if she wanted to disappear from all the stares. I stood tall, trying to be her anchor, though inside I was shaking just as much. "I'm here with you," I whispered, squeezing her hand gently. She nodded weakly, but her hollow eyes showed she had given up hope long ago. The Thornfield family had arrived early, claiming their territory. Cass has wore a sharp gray suit and carried himself with the confidence of someone who believed he had already won. He sat down, adjusted his tie, and shot us a disdainful look. Beside him, Judge Reginald moved slowly but deliberately, his gaze sharp as a blade. He flashed a confident smile, as if he already knew the outcome. In the family section, Victoria and Serafina sat elegantly dressed, occasionally whispering to each other and throwing cold looks in our direction. I could feel their hostility in every gesture, but I forced myself to remain calm, reminding myself that today wasn't about my fight, it was about Luna's justice. Phoenix was there too, sitting in the spectator section in his police uniform. He gave me a slight nod, his steady gaze like a promise that he wouldn't abandon us. His presence made me feel less alone, like I had a true ally in this battle. I nodded back, silently thanking him for standing by us from that horrific Christmas Eve to this crucial moment. The trial began with my lawyer, David Martinez, presenting our evidence clearly and methodically. He showed the bank transfers I had sent Luna over the years, proving that I had always supported her financially, even though most of that money had ended up in Cash's control. He also presented Luna's medical records and detailed notes from her therapist about her severe depression. After 4 miscarriages and constant emotional abuse from her husband's family, Luna didn't just suffer physically, David said, his voice heavy with emotion. She was systematically destroyed emotionally. They treated her like an unwelcome stranger in what should have been her own home. I looked at Luna, her head bowed, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white, as if she were trying to hold her pain inside. I wanted to stand up and embrace her, but I knew I had to stay strong and let our lawyer do his crucial work. Then the Thornfield family's legal team stood up, and I felt injustice creeping into the courtroom like a poisonous fog. One of their lawyers, wearing an expensive black suit, spoke with commanding authority. Luna is simply manipulating the situation by faking illness to avoid responsibility, he declared confidently. The Thornfield family provided her with everything: shelter, food, every necessity, but she failed to fulfill her basic obligations as a wife. Those words slapped me across the face. Faking illness. Avoiding responsibility. I clenched my fists so tightly I could feel my blood pressure rising. They called a witness, Miranda Walsh, the Thornfield's former housekeeper. She took the stand with darting eyes and a shaky voice. Mrs. Luna was extremely lazy, she testified. She would lock herself in her room all day, completely neglecting the household duties. I had to do everything: cooking, cleaning, managing the entire house. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Luna, the same woman who had lovingly prepared every meal, who had made homemade desserts to please the entire family, was now being branded as lazy and irresponsible. I shot to my feet, unable to contain myself. That's a complete lie, I shouted. Luna was never like that. The judge, a stern middle-aged man, slammed his gavel hard. Order in the court, he commanded coldly. Please remain seated. I sat back down, my heart racing, feeling like I couldn't breathe properly. I glanced at Judge Reginald, who smiled with subtle satisfaction at the presiding judge. There was an invisible connection between them that made my skin crawl. Something wasn't right here. I could feel it in my bones. They had orchestrated this entire proceeding, and Luna and I were just pawns in their carefully planned game. Luna remained hunched over, her trembling hands gripping the edge of her chair. I saw Phoenix in the back row, his jaw clenched and fists tight, as if he were fighting to contain his own fury. David Martinez pressed forward, his voice remaining steady despite the hostile atmosphere. We would like to present crucial evidence, an audio recording from Christmas Eve that captures the Thornfield family's verbal abuse and psychological torture of Luna. He played the recording that Phoenix had secretly made. Cash's voice boomed through the courtroom, cold and merciless. She's just faking depression to avoid her responsibilities. Then Victoria's voice, dripping with contempt. A woman who can't have children, even if she's well fed, is completely useless. And Serafina's sarcastic addition. She can't even manage to carry a baby to term. The courtroom fell into stunned silence, with only faint whispers breaking through the tension. I looked at Luna and watched her shrink in her chair, as if those recorded words were stabbing her all over again. But the Thornfield family's lawyer immediately jumped up with an objection. That recording was made illegally without consent, he argued forcefully. It violates privacy rights and should be inadmissible. The judge nodded without hesitation, his voice dry and final. The recording is inadmissible evidence. I felt the ground opening beneath my feet, gripping my chair to keep from collapsing entirely. The recording, our clearest, most damning proof of the Thornfields' cruelty, had been dismissed on a technicality. Murmurs filled the courtroom. Some people gasped in disbelief, others shook their heads in confusion. I looked at Phoenix, whose head was bowed and fists were trembling on his knees. Luna buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking as she fought back tears. I wanted to lose control, to rush the judge's bench and demand real justice, but I knew that in this room justice wasn't on our side. Judge Reginald sat there with a calm but arrogant expression, as if he had known this outcome all along. I squeezed Luna's hand tighter, trying to give her strength even though I felt utterly defeated myself. After a week of grueling trial proceedings, the final verdict was delivered. I sat in the Boise courthouse holding Luna's cold, trembling hand in mine. Throughout the week I had tried to maintain my strength, but every night back at my small apartment, my heart ached with anguish and a profound sense of helplessness. Luna sat beside me, her eyes red from countless sleepless nights, her face pale as if all life had been drained from her. I gripped her hand, trying to pass along some courage, though I was trembling myself. Cass strutted into the courtroom, adjusting his tie as if this were just another ordinary day. Victoria smoothed her dress and sat upright, her lips painted deep red, wearing a confident smile as if she already knew the outcome. Serafina, dressed in flashy attire, shot us a scornful look. Judge Reginald stood behind Cass, his imposing presence and hard gaze reminding everyone that the Thornfield family always maintained control. Phoenix remained in the spectator section, still in his police uniform. His eyes were steady but couldn't hide his deep concern. He gave me a slight nod, a silent promise that he would be there regardless of what happened. I returned a grateful look, comforted by his unwavering presence. When the presiding judge entered, a middle-aged man with an expressionless face, a chill ran down my spine. The air grew heavy, as if everyone was bracing for an inevitable verdict. The judge spoke, his voice dry and official. The court grants the divorce petition between plaintiff Luna Brightwell and defendant Cass Thornfield. Those words sparked a tiny ray of hope inside me. Luna broke into silent tears, streams flowing down her cheeks. I squeezed her hand, urging her to stay calm and listen carefully. The divorce was what I had wanted for Luna, a chance to escape from the Thornfields' cruel prison. But I knew the ruling wasn't finished. The judge continued, his voice monotonous, as if reading from a prepared script. However, the court does not recognize the claims of domestic abuse due to insufficient admissible evidence. Regarding assets, since Cass Thornfield contributed more substantially to the marriage's financial maintenance, the court awards him the majority of all shared property. Those words struck me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I froze completely, my breath caught in my throat. No recognition of domestic abuse. Insufficient evidence. I remembered the Christmas Eve recording, Cash's, Victoria's, and Serafina's cruel words dismissed over a legal technicality. I thought of Luna's medical records, the bank receipts showing my support, all twisted by the Thornfields' lawyers into evidence against us. Then the horrible truth hit me. Judge Reginald, with his extensive background in the judicial system and deep connections throughout the legal community, had manipulated everything. I looked at him and saw him tilt his head slightly, that smugly satisfied smile still playing on his lips. The entire proceeding had been rigged from the beginning. They had orchestrated this outcome, and Luna and I had been nothing more than pawns in their predetermined game. I couldn't contain myself any longer. I shot to my feet, my voice breaking with rage and overwhelming pain. This is completely unjust. I shouted. This isn't real justice. My voice echoed through the courtroom, silencing everyone present. Luna grabbed my hand with panic-filled eyes, but I couldn't stop myself. You witnessed how they treated my daughter. I continued. You heard what she endured, and you still have the audacity to say there was no abuse? You dare to take everything away from her. A court guard approached, his voice firm and threatening. Ma'am, please sit down immediately, or I'll have to remove you from the courtroom. I glared at him, then at the judge, who sat there with a completely blank expression, as if my words meant absolutely nothing. I sat back down with trembling hands, feeling my entire world crumbling beneath me. Cassius turned around, locked eyes with me, and flashed a mocking smile while adjusting his tie, as if he had just achieved a magnificent victory. Victoria and Serafina nudged each other and giggled under their breath, making sure I could hear them. That laughter was like a knife plunging deep into my heart. Judge Reginald nodded slowly, his gaze calm and satisfied, as if this were just another case where he had successfully pulled the strings behind the scenes. I looked at each of them in turn, my blood boiling with fury. They hadn't just stolen Luna's justice, they had destroyed my faith in a system I had once believed was fair. Luna covered her face with both hands, her entire body shaking as her muffled sobs tore at my heart. I wanted to embrace her, to tell her everything would eventually be okay, but no words would come. The judge's verdict echoed in my head like a death sentence, not just for Luna, but for my belief in justice itself. Phoenix in the back row stood abruptly, glaring at the Thornfield family with such intensity that I could see veins bulging in his forearms. His fists clenched as if he were holding back a hurricane of rage. I signaled him to remain calm, though I wanted to scream and destroy everything in that courtroom. The judge slammed his gavel with finality. Order is restored. This session is now concluded. Everyone may leave. The gavel's sound was meant to be a final punctuation mark. But for me, it marked the beginning of a new kind of pain. People began to rise from their seats, voices murmuring, papers shuffling. But I remained seated, holding Luna tightly as her trembling shoulders and heartbroken sobs shattered something inside me. The unjust ruling hadn't just stripped Luna of her assets, it had taken away the last shred of my belief that the system would protect those who needed it most. Cassius sauntered over to where we sat, his posture radiating smug satisfaction, as if he had just won the most important victory of his life. He leaned close to my ear and whispered mockingly, "You see, Zara? I told you not to fight me. You're nothing but a useless old woman." He flashed a crooked smile, his eyes gleaming with triumph, then turned to leave as if Luna and I weren't even worth his time. His words were like gasoline thrown on the fire of my rage. My blood surged through my veins, my entire body tensed like a drawn bow ready to snap. I wanted to lunge forward, to land a punch on that arrogant face, to make him pay for everything he had done to my daughter. After years as a taekwondo coach, I had learned restraint and discipline. But in that moment, all my barriers crumbled completely. I took a step forward, my heart pounding, ready to do something I might regret forever. But Phoenix rushed in front of me, his eyes blazing with fury, his lips pressed tight, his fist clenched as if he were about to unleash it on Cassius. I saw my own uncontainable rage reflected in his face. The courtroom began to buzz with tension. Voices rose with anticipation. Are they going to fight? A police officer throwing punches in court? Some people pulled out their phones, camera flashes illuminating the electric atmosphere. A journalist in the corner raised his camera, his eyes hungry for a sensational story. Cassius turned around, startled for a moment, but quickly regained his defiant composure. He smirked coldly and stepped closer, taunting Phoenix. Go ahead, hit me, he challenged. I'll make sure you lose everything you've worked for. Who do you think you are? Just a low-level cop. Phoenix's fist trembled visibly, his breathing heavy, his eyes burning red with fury. I knew he was on the verge of doing something that would destroy his career and possibly his life. Suddenly, Luna broke free from my protective embrace, ran to Phoenix, and clung desperately to his arm. She was sobbing uncontrollably, her voice completely broken. No, please don't do it, she cried. I don't want you or Mom to become violent like him. I just want peace. I just want to keep living. Her cry tore through the charged air, instantly silencing the entire room. I watched tears stream down Luna's face as her thin hands gripped Phoenix like he was her final anchor to sanity. Phoenix froze completely, breathing hard, his fiery eyes slowly dimming. His fist trembled, remaining rigid for a long moment, then slowly loosened and dropped to his side. Camera clicks echoed throughout the courtroom, flashes highlighting the scene of Luna clinging to Phoenix while Cass has stood smugly nearby. Some observers, who may not have fully understood the case details, began to cry softly. A gentle murmur of weeping rose like Luna's pain had somehow reached into their hearts. I looked around and saw a woman wiping away tears, a man shaking his head in obvious sorrow. But the Thornfield family remained completely unmoved. Victoria and Serafina continued whispering to each other with cold smiles, while Judge Reginald maintained his authoritative demeanor, as if everything was still perfectly under his control. The presiding judge slammed his gavel again, his voice cold and final. "Order in the court. If this disruption continues, I will have guards clear the room immediately." I stepped forward, gathered Luna into my arms and held her tightly. She continued crying, her fragile body trembling against mine like a lost child seeking shelter. Phoenix stood beside us with his head bowed and lips pressed tight, as if he were blaming himself for not being able to do more. I placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, nodding softly to let him know I understood his frustration and was grateful he had been there for us. Cass has adjusted his tie one final time, turned, and walked away with heavy steps that seemed to pound out the rhythm of his victory. Victoria and Serafina followed behind him, their cold laughter serving as another knife thrust into my chest. The courtroom slowly emptied, leaving just the three of us, me, Luna, and Phoenix, sharing the same bitter taste of defeat. I held Luna even tighter, feeling her weak breath against my shoulder. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking with exhaustion. "I don't want to fight anymore. I'm so tired. Can we just go home?" Those words completely tore my heart apart. I wanted to tell her that everything would eventually be okay, that I would continue fighting for her, but my throat closed up and no words would come. I led Luna out of the courtroom with Phoenix walking silently beside us, his gaze steady despite our defeat. Faint Boise sunlight streamed through the windows, but it couldn't warm the chill that had settled in my heart. I knew that today's ruling wasn't just a legal loss, it was a declaration of war. The Thornfields might have won in court, but I wouldn't let them win in Luna's life. I looked at my daughter and saw her red eyes still holding a tiny spark of hope, however small and fragile. For that spark, I swore I would never give up. In the days following the trial, Boise seemed to stir with an undercurrent of change. Local news outlets began picking up the story, with bold headlines appearing on front pages. "Thornfield trial justice bought?" Reading those words made my heart pound, as if they were finally giving voice to the pain that Luna and I had endured. On social media, the video of Luna clinging to Phoenix in the courtroom spread rapidly. The image of my daughter, eyes red with tears, voice breaking as she begged Phoenix not to resort to violence, touched countless hearts. Comments flooded in with outrage and support. "The Thornfields think they can control everything with their money and influence. Luna deserves so much better than this treatment. This is what happens when the justice system fails the people who need it most." Sitting in our small apartment and reading those supportive words, I felt a measure of comfort. Though the court had turned its back on us, the community's voice was beginning to side with Luna, and that meant something powerful. The Thornfields, despite their legal victory, began to feel the social cost of their actions. I heard through various sources that Judge Reginald's former colleagues were whispering behind his back, spreading rumors about how he had used his influence to manipulate justice. Cass, has now dubbed the lawyer of injustice in online forums, became a target of widespread criticism. The prestigious reputation the family had always flaunted was crumbling like a sandcastle swept away by relentless waves. I didn't take pleasure in their downfall, but I felt a measure of justice not from the courts, but from the power of public opinion and community solidarity. I brought Luna to live with me permanently in my small apartment, with its warm yellow lamplight and family photos covering the walls. Each morning I woke up early to prepare her breakfast, sometimes pancakes with maple syrup, other times simple scrambled eggs with buttered toast. Luna would sit quietly at the table, cradling a mug of hot tea, staring out the window where gentle sunlight filtered between Boise's rooftops. Some days I would notice silent tears rolling down her cheeks like raindrops, but I could see that slowly, gradually Luna was beginning to heal. Each day she spoke a little more, her eyes becoming less hollow than before. I didn't pressure her or rush her recovery. I simply stayed by her side, a mother ready to shield her daughter from any storm that might come. Phoenix became an essential part of our daily lives. He would visit regularly, sometimes bringing small bouquets of winter flowers, other times arriving with fresh donuts from the neighborhood bakery. Each visit seemed to brighten Luna's spirit a little more, as if his presence was medicine for her wounded soul. One quiet afternoon, Phoenix approached Luna with obvious nervousness, holding a small wrapped box in his hands. Inside was a keychain shaped like a taekwondo uniform, the same symbol I had taught him and all my other students over the years. "You don't have to be strong immediately," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "But you can start over little by little, just like Miss Zara taught all of us." Luna took the keychain and held it carefully, her eyes shining with emotion. She pressed her lips together, fighting back tears, then nodded slowly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice small but filled with genuine feeling. I watched from a distance, remaining silent, feeling a tremendous weight lift from my chest. For years, Luna had been belittled and called worthless. Now, finally, someone saw her true value, someone who appreciated her not for what she could do or provide, but simply for who she was as a person. I turned away briefly, wiping a tear from my cheek, not wanting Luna to see my own vulnerability in that moment. One evening, as the sunset bathed our apartment in golden light, Luna sat across from Phoenix on the old couch. Her head was bowed, hands nervously twisting the edge of her sweater, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Phoenix," she said quietly, "I might never be able to have children. If that disappoints you." She stopped mid-sentence, as if she feared those words would ruin everything good that was developing between them. I was in the kitchen, pretending to wash dishes, but my heart stopped as I waited for Phoenix's response. He smiled, a warm, steady smile that seemed to light up the entire room. He took her hands gently and looked directly into her eyes. "I don't need children to be happy, Luna," he said with complete sincerity. "You're already my family." Those words were like a warm breeze melting away the cold that had lingered in my chest for so long. I heard them with a lump forming in my throat, my eyes blurring with tears of relief and gratitude. For years, Luna had been humiliated and treated as a failure because she couldn't have children. Now someone was telling her she was enough, that she deserved love simply for being herself. I turned my face away, letting tears fall silently, my heart overflowing with gratitude too profound for words. Spring arrived early that year, and I took Luna by the hand to walk through Boise's main square, just like we used to do when she was a little girl skipping happily down the lamp-lit streets. The square was alive with children's laughter and the enticing aroma of fresh-baked goods from various food vendors. Luna wore a light spring sweater, her hair tied back neatly, and for the first time in many months, I saw her smile, a radiant smile like the warm spring sun breaking through winter clouds. "Mom," she said softly, "I miss these simple times. I miss when you taught me to make your famous apple pie, when you told me stories about your taekwondo competitions." I smiled, squeezing her hand affectionately. "I miss those times too, sweetheart. And I'll always be here to create new memories with you." As we sat on a wooden bench watching children play by the fountain, a simple but profound truth struck me with startling clarity. Justice in courtrooms can be twisted and corrupted, bought with money and influence. But the justice of the heart, love, respect, resilience, human dignity, no one can touch that or take it away. Luna, though she had lost so much in material terms, was finding herself again day by day, step by step. And I, a mother who had once felt completely powerless, now understood that my greatest strength had never been in the punches I could throw in the ring, but in the unwavering love I held for my daughter. Phoenix arrived with a bag of warm churros, handed one to Luna, and they laughed and chatted together like old friends who had known each other forever. I watched them with my heart full of hope and possibility. Luna might never completely forget the scars that the Thornfield family had inflicted, But she was learning to move forward, to love herself again, to open her heart to those who truly valued her worth. And me at 65 years old, after fighting so many battles throughout my life, I finally understood that the fight for Luna's happiness and healing was the most meaningful battle of all. The months that followed brought small miracles and gradual healing. Luna began cooking again tentatively at first, just simple soups and bread. But gradually her confidence returned. Phoenix would often join us for dinner, praising her efforts and encouraging her to try new recipes. Watching her face light up when she successfully prepared a meal reminded me of the bright, hopeful girl she had been before the thornfields broke her spirit. Dr. Santos continued working with Luna, helping her process the trauma and develop coping strategies. Slowly, Luna began to speak about her experiences, to name the abuse she had suffered, and to understand that none of it had been her fault. These breakthrough moments were precious to witness, like watching a flower bloom after a harsh winter. One day, Luna surprised me by asking if she could enroll in a community college course. "I want to study early childhood education," she said shyly. "I may not be able to have children of my own, but maybe I can help other people's children." My heart swelled with pride. This was the Luna I remembered, the girl who had always had a nurturing spirit, who had dreamed of making a positive difference in the world. Phoenix's feelings for Luna deepened over time, and hers for him grew as well. Their relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and genuine care. He never pressured her, never made her feel inadequate, never treated her as anything less than precious. Watching them together healed something in my own heart that I hadn't even realized was broken. As for the Thornfield family, their public reputation continued to suffer. Judge Reginald faced an ethics investigation, though it moved slowly through bureaucratic channels. Cassis found his law practice struggling as clients began to question his character. Victoria and Serafina retreated from public social events, no longer comfortable with the whispers and pointed looks that followed them. Justice, I learned, doesn't always come from courtrooms. Sometimes it comes from community accountability, from the slow but steady work of truth emerging, from people choosing to stand with the vulnerable rather than the powerful. On Luna's birthday that year, we had a small celebration in our apartment. Phoenix brought flowers, I made her favorite cake, and Dr. Santos even stopped by to join us. As we sat around our modest table, Luna looked at each of us with tears in her eyes. "I never thought I would feel grateful again," she said softly. "But sitting here with all of you, I realize that sometimes losing everything helps you discover what truly matters." She was right. We had lost the court case, lost material possessions, lost faith in institutional justice. But we had gained something infinitely more valuable. We had found our way back to love, to hope, to the understanding that our worth as human beings could never be determined by others. That night, as I watched Luna and Phoenix talking quietly on the porch, I felt a deep sense of peace. My daughter was healing. She was loved. She was building a new life based on her own choices and values rather than others' expectations. The fight wasn't over. Healing is a lifelong journey, and there would always be challenges ahead. But for the first time in years, I believed in our future. We had survived the Thornfields' cruelty, survived the legal system's failure, survived the darkest period of our lives. And in surviving, we had discovered that our strength came not from winning battles in courtrooms, but from refusing to let others define our worth, from choosing love over bitterness, from building new dreams on the foundation of hard-won wisdom. As I sat in my small apartment that night, surrounded by photos of happier times and evidence of our gradual healing, I knew that this story, Luna's story, my story, our story, was ultimately about triumph. Not the kind of triumph that makes headlines or gets celebrated in courtrooms, but the quiet, profound triumph of the human spirit refusing to be broken. If you're reading this story and you're fighting your own battles, remember Luna's journey. Remember that healing is possible, that love can overcome cruelty, that your worth is not determined by others' treatment of you. Most importantly, remember that sometimes the greatest victories are the ones that happen in the quiet moments, in the gradual rebuilding of a life, in the slow return of hope. Don't forget to subscribe if this story touched your heart, and share it with someone who might need to hear Luna's message of resilience and hope. Every story shared is a light that can guide someone else through their own darkness. Remember, you are worthy of love, worthy of respect, worthy of justice, regardless of what others may have told you. Your voice matters, your story matters, and you are never truly alone in the fight for your dignity and peace.